Hey guys, Ol Skipflack here. I just wanted to take a quick minute to apologize for the lack of new videos here on the channel. With the summer ramping up, things have been getting crazy at the Crithalla studio. However, we decided to change the format of our podcast videos to make it a little bit easier on us. This will allow us to post more frequently, so I hope you guys enjoy the new layout. Also, speaking of summer, we have a brand new giveaway that we just posted on our Facebook page for hitting our 1,000 download milestone of the podcast. We are giving away a Cthulhu dice tray with a tropical themed bag and some cool dice, just in time for the summer. I'll leave a link in the description to the post so you guys can enter. Thanks again for all the amazing support you guys have been giving us. It truly means the world to us. Now please, enjoy this episode of the Crithalla Podcast.
Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Crithalla Podcast. I am your host, Ol Skipflack, and I'm joined by my brutal co-hosts here. We'll start with Stavi. So dope, Stavi. What's up, brother? How are you?
Oh, it's me. Hi.
Brutal boy. Oh my goodness.
Ooh. I don't have the guttural diaphragm action.
That's okay.
To really get into that, So, but I'm doing good, man. I'm doing great.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, just burying myself in thousands, not literally, but dozens of different RPG systems over the last couple of weeks.
I think we can all agree that we all have, actually.
Yeah, no, it's been fun just finding all these new cool things. Yeah, mulling over all these systems has been a lot of fun. But I'm not the only person who is here. Mike, come on in, Cosmic
Come on in,
Key.
Mike.
Come on in, buddy.
In an age of the tears of the dead red dragons. Hey, everybody.
Oh, jeez. Monologuing over here.
Yeah, brutal monologues.
They cry for the hoard that they have lost and the scales that have rotted from their feathered heads.
Wow. You've been reading a lot of different types of books there, huh? It's almost sucked into your brain at this point.
I don't read books. I slay them.
I think you're the most brutal out of all of us here.
I have done battle with education and I have won.
That's a hard task. Congratulations.
My father was a wolf. Oh, sorry.
Speaking of brutal, why are we here today, Dan? Please tell the viewers what we got going on.
Yeah, dude. Well, first of all, welcome back to the Crithalla Podcast. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Crithalla Podcast. We run two shows here on this podcast. We run DMs Discuss, where we discuss different questions and topics for DMs. And the other show we create is Talking Tabletop. Stavi, do you want to explain what Talking Tabletop is?
Yeah, come on in. Here, let me give you a quick little elevator pitch for Talking Tabletop.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, brother. So Talking Tabletop effectively is this concept that Dan, Mike, and myself came up with where, from the wake of sort of the whole OGL debacle that caused a lot of different tabletop role-playing players to kind of expand their horizons and look at other game systems. We wanted to cultivate third-party and other independent developers and creators of tabletop role-playing games, so we decided to create a show called Talking Tabletop. This show, effectively, is each of us will take turns every episode discussing and presenting a different tabletop role-playing game system.
Yeah, baby.
It's pretty awesome. We pretty much give an elevator pitch. We talk about it, talk about the lore, the mechanics, what makes it unique, the art, all the good stuff that makes these games really interesting and worth checking out. We ask and answer questions regarding them amongst ourselves, because many of us, either two of us, one of us, three of us, may have never even played these systems. It may be just something that we discovered and was like, this looks badass, let's review it, let's take a look at it. And so what winds up happening is we have 4 seasons throughout the year that we're planning. Each season is going to consist of 3 episodes, and each episode being Dan, myself, and then Mike. once all three of us present our games at the end of the season, we will have you guys, the community, vote on which system you like the best.
Yeah.
And whichever system wins, all three of us will be doing a recorded one-shot using that system.
Yeah, dude. I can't wait for that to happen, because I know after Mike's Mutants and Masterminds video episode that we just did, that one looks like a lot of fun, and the one that I believe I'm going to discuss today is a very interesting one as well.
Is it also fun and light and a joy to behold?
Yeah, is it like rainbows and like unicorns and like happy thoughts?
Well, if you want to talk about light, we can say it's rules light, but unicorns and rainbows and sunshine, not so much, because today I am going to be discussing and reviewing MÖRK BORG.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
MÖRK BORG is badass.
It is one of the most brutal and intense games I have ever picked up. Absolutely insane. I can't wait to talk about this bad boy.
Yeah, isn't the book written on the husk of a dead Leviathan?
Yeah, it's got that really nice texture too, so somebody definitely like tanned it, made it really nice.
Yeah.
It's very
kind of like the Necronomicon, right?
Yeah, just like the Necronomicon. I guess.
Just written on the flesh of your fallen enemies, inked in the blood of angels.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So everyone turn up your volume, and anytime we say words that sound like a chant, just say it along and see what happens, everybody.
Yeah, be sure to light 5 candles.
Sit in a circle.
Sit in a circle, get your chalk, and when your eyes roll in the back of your head and start writing weird symbols on the ground, just go with it, man. It's part of the process.
Yeah. It's part of the game.
It's part of the game.
Yeah.
It's in the game. EA Sports.
It's in the game. It's in the game. So, yeah, Dan, kick it off. What's going on? What is MÖRK BORG?
All right. Well, first of all, welcome to MÖRK BORG. I think I'll do a brief synopsis, and I couldn't think of a better way to start this off. I would love to read a section of the first page for you all. Well, it's actually page 3, but it's the first page with text on it. I'd love to read this. Cue the scary horror music. We're going to put that bad boy in. Yeah. Here we go. Distances shift, paths between places warp, as if this pale, lightless world possessed a will and bitter life. Its mercy curdled to wrath over a long age. Who are you? The grave robber with silver glittering between cracked fingernails? The mystic who would bend the world's miserable heart away from its inevitable end? Most likely, it makes little difference. No one has seen the sun in years. The old care more for sacrifice and god offerings than their bawling spawn. Doomsayers are proven right time and time again, and embraced by hidden powers. Maybe it's best to surrender, to trust your own instinct and skill, rather than the whim of the dice. Before all is drowned in welcome silence, life locked and failing in a dark fort. MÖRK BORG is a OSR-styled game, which is very similar to like if you ever played old school Essentials or an older edition of Dungeons and Dragons, created by, now hold on, before I begin with this, it's very Swedish, Norwegian people and companies, so if I get these words wrong, I apologize. But the text and game design was made by Pelle Nilsson, and the graphic design and art, which is probably the best part of this entire book, the artwork, is made by Johan Noir. And it's published by Free League Publishing.
Free League does it.
Free League, yeah.
Interesting.
They do, I believe, the One Ring RPG.
The Alien RPG.
Yes.
Free League does a lot of games.
Yeah. No, they do a lot, and they do a lot of good games, too.
Yeah.
But MÖRK BORG is essentially a dead and dying world. You are essentially nobody special. You're just a person and or thing that is just trying to survive the world as it all comes to an end. There are some mysterious powers lurking in the depths of dungeons and scrolls, and you're pretty much just trying to do the best you can before the world crumbles around you. It's pretty badass and brutal. This game is deadly.
And so does the world come to an end?
Well, it does. I would love to start with that mechanic, actually, because it probably is the reason why this game is different from other games. We'll start with the, again, apologies in advance because my pronunciation is not going to be good. But we're going to start with the calendar of Netrobel. I think that's the best way to say it. The calendar itself is essentially the timeline your world and campaign ends. It is what the entire game is based around, your entire campaign. Essentially what happens is... the calendar goes by, it goes by each day, and every day that the players wake up, the game master rolls a dice. And if the 1 number is rolled on that dice, a misery happens. Now, on this page of Psalms, there's a million different things that can happen. So after you roll a 1, you have to roll a D66, which is essentially... you roll 1d6 and that's your 10s, and then you roll another d6, which is 1 through 6.
Sure.
So you go through it, and it seems rather light, but as you progress and you see the world dying and dying, it just gets worse and worse. So one example could be, the trees shall wither, shrivel, and die. So all the trees in the world die, and the birds shall fall dead from the sky. So there's no more birds at all in your world anymore. They're all dead. And after... the 7th one is rolled, that is when the world officially dies. The 7th misery, the 7th one that you roll, your world dies. And it's always the same psalm, no matter what it is. It's literally just the world is gone. It's just done. But what's cool about the calendar, which I really, really like, is you can run a game that is solely made for a one-shot. So you can pick the die that rolls the 1. So you can pick a D2, so it's literally a 50-50 shot if you're going to roll a misery or not, all the way up to a D100. So it's a 1 out of 100 chance to get a 1.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, I like that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, you can literally have it where it's like, okay, like this campaign's going to end very soon, you better get this shit done, or it could last a very, very long time. It's really the game master's choice.
Yeah, so the GM gets to pretty much, they get to set the timeline.
Essentially.
Of the cataclysm.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
What are the players, I mean, you mentioned just before that, like, pretty much the premise for the players is to survive, not even to thrive, but just to survive and live in this dying world. What motivations or... anything like that do players have to want to even go out in this dying world? Like, is there eldritch powers that could help them live? Is there treasures? Is like, what keeps them from just hoveling like in the ground somewhere, like in a cave, and not going outside?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things set up in the book as for reasons why your adventurer or person is still surviving to begin with. It could be the last glimmer of treasure that they're looking for on this dying world. It could be trying to get more into the hierarchy, or trying to become a king or a queen, or it could even be as crazy as trying to not make the world die by going into a bit of the lore in the game. There's two-headed basilisks that kind of rule the world, and the one head is Verhu, I think that's how you would say it, and essentially he is the one that prophesizes the destruction of the world. So a lot of the characters in the game, they tend to try to give offerings to Verhu to try to keep him from destroying the world or to tweak his prophecy. So maybe your character's trying to do that. Maybe trying to... there's a lot of possibilities, but at the end of the day, no matter what, the world's gonna die. And you probably will too. This game is brutal.
You should definitely not get attached to your characters then.
Oh, definitely not. This is not one of those games where you want to make extensive lore and really get committed to your character, because probably by the end of the first session, you probably died once, maybe already twice. It's brutal. It's crazy. Some of these monsters in the back of the book, whew, nasty.
It's like all the brutality of Dark Souls, but without the actual like Dark Souls tabletop RPG.
Yeah, you could definitely say that this is like very Dark Souls inspired. Very OSR styling. A lot of OSR styling to it too, where, you know, it's just it's what you got, and if you die, you get what you get, and you don't get upset. You know, you move on.
Yeah, you roll a new character.
Yeah, and that's just it.
Speaking of that, how are characters generated? Like, what is there your typical attributes of like strength, dex, willpower, intelligence? Do you get weapons? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so I'll start with abilities. There's 4 basic abilities in this game. There is agility, which gives you your defense, your balance, how you can swim, and how you can flee from a combat. Presence, which is how you perceive. It's also to aim, like aim a weapon. Charm, or wield powers, which is what we'll get into later. That's kind of the magic of this game. Then there's strength, which will crush, lift, strike, or grapple. And toughness is your resist to poison, cold, heat, survive falling, and it's also pretty much how you determine your hit points starting off. Now there's 2 different ways to create your character. The first way is literally just random rolling. And the other one is, which I love, the character creation in this game is nuts, because it's just all over the place. You can either just roll off all these tables, or there are optional classes in this game. There's no such thing as a mandatory class in this game. It's if you want to, you could. You don't really have to.
How does that work?
So, I especially for someone who's just getting into this game, I probably would recommend trying to pick one of the optional classes, because it's a good like baseline to get you started. But really, how you do it is you pick a class. So, for instance, the Gutterborn Scum, right? That's one of the classes in this game. It already gives you how much gold you start with: 1d6 plus 10, or sorry, 1d6 times 10 silver. A D2 omens, which we'll get into later, and HP, which will be toughness plus a D6. And then after that, it'll show you how you're going to roll your abilities, stuff like that. And then each class gives you like a special little like perk. So for instance, the Gutterborn Scum, it's like, you know, just like a little extra thing that you get. So like maybe for instance, like the Coward's Jab. When attacking by surprise, test your agility. On a success, you automatically hit once with a light-handed weapon. So it's just a little perk, and usually each class gets like 1 or 2 of them. Oh, okay. And then from there, after you roll that, you roll your equipment, which is it's just 1 page, and you roll 1d6 for your 1d6 is going to be what you use to carry everything. It could be a sack, it could be a backpack, small wagon, stuff like that. And then you roll 2d12, and that'll give you something like, for instance, a sharp needle, or a rope that's 30 feet, or a toolbox, or in other cases, scrolls, which is what you use your powers for. After that, you get a random weapon, and you get random armor, and the weapons go from staff to a short sword to a knife, stuff like that. And then armor, it goes to light, medium, and I believe heavy. And then you roll your abilities. It's just 3d6, and what's cool about this is, for anybody familiar with like 5th edition or something like that, you always get your ability modifier. So in this game, you get that as well. So once you roll your stat, let's say you got, like your agility, you rolled a 12. So you get a +0 or something like that. And then your presence, you rolled a 15, so you get a +2. After you get those pluses and minuses, those base ability scores no matter anymore at all. It's just the modifiers are your stats, which is pretty cool.
So it's sort of just like a chart, like rolling
essentially
on a random table in a way, yeah.
Yeah, and you just have your ability like modifier, and that's it.
That cuts down on a lot of the crunchiness of like having to worry about, because certain OSR games, you know, they didn't have like skill checks back in the day, like how we do in 5th edition, with Arcana checks and survival checks or whatever. So the old school way of doing it would be to roll a d20, I think plus your modifier. If you had a modifier, like if you were doing like an agility check or whatever, you would have to roll under your agility number, right? So if you had 15, you would have to roll under 15.
Right.
In order for that to work. So rather than having to like do that extra layer of crunch, it's literally just a modifier and that's it.
That's it. That's
cool.
That's all you're getting.
I personally like that.
Yeah, and some of the classes they'll tell you like for instance, back to the Gutterborn Scum, since you're small, you actually roll 3d6 minus 2 to your strength.
Oh.
So it's like pluses and minuses to different stats if you pick a class. Or, like I said, you can literally just straight up bare bones, roll everything, roll your equipment, roll your hit points. When you do just a classless build, I think you roll 4d6 instead of 3d6 for your stats. So it gives you a little bit of a boost.
That's probably to compensate for not getting the special ability from the class.
Right, I believe that's what it would be for, yeah.
So for those of you who are familiar with playing Dark Souls games or any of the Soulsborne games, basically doing the build your own character path is kind of like playing as the what the hell is that class? Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts.
In Dark Souls? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's the one that I always play because you always start off with like the lowest stats.
Okay.
So you literally start off at level 1. You get no armor, you get a club, and you get a shield. I think it's called the Deprived. Yeah, the Deprived. Yeah.
And you just get like the lowest stats and a couple of things.
Lowest stats, couple of things, and you have to grind your way up.
That's essentially how you build a character in this game. It's literally just bare bones. You get 2 cool equipment things, a thing to carry it all in, weapon, armor, that's it.
I love that.
Good luck.
Now, when you roll your stats, do you roll them and assign them after, like roll them as a group and then assign them, or do you go down the line? You know what I mean? So this is my strength, now I roll the 3d6.
Yeah, I think you just go down the list. It doesn't necessarily speak of that in the book, but I probably would do it like that, where you just agility, presence, strength, toughness, and then just roll those 3d6 or 4d6.
Yeah, I mean that's a staple of old school Renaissance games is straight down the line, no assigning.
I'm assuming that's what it is, because since you said that the scum gets like a minus to strength when he rolls it. So I'm assuming you would have to, once you get to the strength stat, you use the one with the minus, so.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
yeah,
I have another...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I have another quick question. Does it mess up the balance of the game if some people in the group are classless and some people have classes?
It's funny because I haven't played this game either yet. So I personally am not sure. It's just a game I've picked up because I really want to play it. And I really want to convince you guys to play this too because it's badass. But I'm assuming no.
Oh no, so far it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Like the examples for like the one, and again, you probably only get 1 or 2. It's just a little bonus. Another Gutterborn Scum one is Filthy Fingersmith. Your snaky little digits get into pockets and pick locks with a DR 8 agility test, which that's something. DR is like DC. GM, okay. The GM does not make DCs. They don't make DRs. It's literally in the book like what it is, and most of the time it's a DR 12. That's like the basic DR, and so for this you get a little bit of a knockoff. It's DR 8 agility test to like pick locks and stuff. So it gives you these little bonuses of like you get a little extra.
How do you roll for DR? Is it like a D20 system?
Just a straight up D20 plus whatever your modifier is for that certain stat.
Oh, plus or minus if you have like negative agility or whatever.
Yeah, which is definitely a thing that can happen.
It might be fun, just going off topic real quick, for these games that we're presenting, I don't know about the rest of the viewers, but I know about me. And I know that when I play computer role-playing games especially, the character creation is one of the biggest things that I judge a role-playing game by. Like, how in-depth is it? How much freedom do I have to create my character, both aesthetically and like crunch-wise, like with stats and numbers and whatever, and equipment and everything like that. So I would like to, even just maybe one of these days, if we have the time to do this, just put up like, here's how you create a character in this game system that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, because like, you know, so granted, some of these game systems that we're looking at can be really, really long.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Like there are some game systems that I have on my bookshelf where like a session 0 is almost as long as like a full blown like campaign session. Yeah. Just because of how dynamic and intricate some of these character creation stuff is. Not that it's grindy necessarily. It's just that it's, there's a lot of options.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options and the options are
very
cool.
In-depth.
Exactly. Like, especially with mutants and masterminds, like what Mike did in our last episode. It's not necessarily that it's a crunch so much as it is like you just have so much freedom to do shit. And it's fun to explore what your options are. So as sort of like a side note, like it would be cool to demonstrate how these characters are built, I think, at some point.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And at this point, like we said in the last episode, I would like to pull up for our video version on our YouTube page, pull up a character sheet so you can kind of see what a character sheet looks like. It's pretty bare bones like this game is. It's very rules light, so it's a very rules light style character sheet. There's not a whole lot going on it, which I like.
How many pages are in the book? It's like 90 pages or something?
This book, besides the like 20-page cool little dungeon crawl you get in the back,
cool.
It is literally 71 pages of rules. And that's
for an entire system.
For an entire system.
And it's like an A4 or an A5
little A5 book. That's all
it's an A5 book, yeah. So that's not a whole lot of space. If it was like a full US letter page, it would be like 30 pages if that.
Yeah. That's like the benefit. That's one of the benefits of a rules light system. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. And I want to bring this up. This game, as bare bones as this book is that was created, the cult following community that has joined this book is immense. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, Stavi. I'm sure you have. The website Exalted Funeral.
That's the guys who handle the Old School Essentials.
Yes, that's where I got my Old School Essentials book.
I love Exalted Funeral.
I love that company. They're so great. But it's really one of the only ways besides like Amazon and stuff to get the book in America, because this is like a Swedish or Norwegian book, one or the other.
Oh, it's definitely Swedish.
It's Swedish, I believe.
Yeah.
But the community that surrounds this game has made so much third-party content, and you can find it all on Exalted Funeral. There's campaigns, there's optional source books, there's entire worlds based off this game, and there's even completely generated systems that people have made just off this source book, which is just insane. There's even like, Blood Bowl, is that Warhammer, I believe?
Yeah, that's Warhammer.
Yeah, there's MÖRK Bowl that was just funded on Kickstarter, where it's a sports ball game based in the MÖRK Borg rules. It's just it's insane.
Yeah, they actually just had an event called 30 Days of MÖRK Borg, where you get all these like independent dungeon designers and campaign designers, and they've created all these really cool small campaign, like one-shot type things that you can do, and they're like in these little zines, like these little magazines.
Yeah.
There's a lot of third-party support for the system, which honestly surprised me, considering that the game is, I mean, those who know about MÖRK Borg.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But
it's one of those games.
It's definitely one of those games that is absolutely a cult following, much like with a lot of other systems that aren't necessarily Wizards of the Coast or D&D in general. Like, it flies, unfortunately, so far under the radar, but it's 100% worth looking into.
Yeah, 100%. Because, like I said, just the community-driven content is enough to keep your entire group playing this game satiated for a very long time. But to get back into character creation real quick, I just want to finish up with the optional rules. Now, I mentioned omens before, which would probably be like the one saving grace for your character, because otherwise you really have nothing else. Most of it's like 1d, so you roll every day a d4 and you get that many omens, and you can use an omen for a bunch of different things, like dealing maximum damage with one attack, re-rolling a dice roll, lower damage dealt to you by a d6. So it's just like these extra, I guess you'd call it like maybe inspiration in 5th edition or something like that. Sure. Everyone gets a few of them every day just to somehow give your character just a little bit of hope in this terrible dying world. And then there's other things too, like optional tables, like some trauma that your character can have, broken bodies. Maybe you're missing a finger. You roll on that chart. Maybe a little quirk that you have. There's like a quirk section. You stutter when lying, stuff like that. Troubling tales, which could be kind of like a background or a reason why you're traversing this world, and stuff like that. And the last thing I want to bring up is obviously the powers. Now, magic in this game is interesting. Pretty much anybody can use it, but you need a scroll. There's 2 different types of scrolls.
Oh.
So there's unclean scrolls, and then there's like sacred scrolls, and each one has their own little table of like what each scroll does. And the only way to use these scrolls is if you have them in your possession. Otherwise, you don't know them at all. Now, when you do have a scroll, every day you roll a d4, determining how many times you can use that scroll in a day. And each scroll can be different. There's one where, for instance, Daemon of Capillaries, one creature suffocates for 1d6 rounds or something like that, or... one of them is ask 3 questions to a deceased creature, stuff like that. Some of it's damage, some of it's role playing. It's pretty cool, and you have to roll a presence DR12, and if you succeed, you do what the scroll says. But if you fail, you lose 1d2 hit points and become dizzy for the next hour. And during that hour, if you were to ever try to cast another power, you would just instantly fail, and it actually goes to another chart. There's a lot of charts in this game, which is very OSR style, but they call it the Arcane Catastrophes.
Oh, I love that.
It's very similar to what's the sorcerer's name? Wild Surge, maybe.
Well, Dungeon Crawl Classic also has something like that, where you have like crit fail charts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like brutal, man. They're very brutal. Mutant Crawl Classics has that too, yeah.
But yeah, that's essentially character creation, what the character's all about, stuff like that. It's just a lot of tables, a lot of randomizing, and good luck.
Now, I have a question.
Sure.
Now, we talked about setting, we talked about the awesome metalness, and the random tables, and scum, and all those wonderful hallmark moments, but...
yeah.
What's combat like? How do you actually do things? How do you fight monsters? How do you live or die? Things like that.
Sure. So that is pretty much the main part of this game. This game... I say this world is dying and crazy and all that, but you really don't see it until you really get into the game. This game is all about combat. It's about getting into the nitty-gritty, trying the best you can to survive, and there's a lot of monsters and a lot of combat. So, with anybody who's familiar with OSR-style games or older editions of D&D and stuff like that, this will sound pretty familiar. So before I get into it, during combat, the Game Master rarely rolls dice. For actual combat, the Game Master does not roll dice at all.
Really?
No attacks, no defense, nothing.
What?
Yeah. Seriously, the only thing that the GM rolls during combat is like damage rolls, obviously, but monsters and creatures, they don't have attack rolls and they don't have defense rolls. That's it. It's all up to the player. So the player either has to attack and succeed, like normally it's a DR 12, you know, to hit, or they have to defend against the monster. It's pretty crazy. It's very, very bare bones. So you start off with initiative. You start off with essentially group initiative, where the players roll a d6. 1 through 3, the enemies go first, and then 4 through 6, the players go first. And then after that, you kind of roll. You could pick either way. You can either have it like individual initiative, where each player rolls a dice after that to figure out who's going first. And that's how you start. And then all it is just you melee attack, or you ranged with either a ranged weapon or a power that you have, like a scroll. And that's pretty much it. That's all you're doing. You roll. And then after the players are done, the monsters are just coming to attack you. So every attack that comes towards you, you have to roll a defense roll with your agility. Interesting. Yeah. There is no GM rolling for attacks or anything like that. It's pretty cool.
Does armor do anything to the roll, or does it add like does it act like a damage reduction or something?
Yeah, so armor gives you some benefits. First of all, it straight up cuts some of the damage from what is coming towards you. So there's no armor, light armor, medium armor, and heavy armor. And then you can also have a shield. Light armor just gives you -2 to damage, which is pretty cool. Well, minus D2 damage. Medium armor is a D4 damage reduction. You get a +2 to like your agility tests, including defense. And then there's heavy armor that gives you a D6 damage reduction. Plus, it gives you a D4 for agility checks and stuff like that.
Oh, so the armor defense is still an active roll.
It kind of gives you pluses to your roll, essentially.
That's cool.
And it helps with the damage, too.
That's cool, because that'll represent sometimes, a claw finds, purchase under your armor or to the side where it's latched or something.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and that's pretty much it. And then, your weapon does whatever, D6, D8, D12, anything like that. And then, again, another system that a lot of OSR-style games are familiar with is there's the morale section. After you're fighting and you're beating up a group of monsters or anything like that, a lot of monsters will make a morale check. A lot of enemies won't fight to the last drop of blood or anything like that. So morale checks are made from the enemies if like the leader is killed, half the group is eliminated, or like a single enemy that only has like a third of its HP left will try to make a morale roll. By doing that, it's a D6, and 1 through 3 it'll flee, or 4 through 6 it'll surrender. So that's a classic, like this, especially in old school Essentials.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny that in such like a rules light, pickup sort of game that is very ambiance and setting driven, that it has like very tactical combat. So like,
yeah,
you'd be like, which one seems to be the leader, which one's giving orders. So focus on that one. Which one's the alpha wolf sort of stuff. Like you have to actually think about it, or you could just die because you probably have 5 hit points. So everyone better be on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. So that's combat, and then really the only other thing is reaction, which is another thing in OSE2. I know. If you come up against like a creature or something, and you don't know its intentions at first, like if it's not 100% trying to kill you, there's a reaction roll, and it goes from it's a 2d6 roll, and it goes from 2 to 12. Like 1 to 2, it's trying to kill you. 2 to 6, it's just angered. All the way up to like 11 to 12, which will actually be helpful to you instead of just straight up trying to kill you. So
that's cool. Yeah. You just never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reaction table charts, that's definitely like a trope of old school Essentials. And older OSR like D&D style thing. So I like that a lot, and I think we mentioned this before in a previous DMs Discuss video, but not every encounter needs to be combat.
True.
And this table facilitates that because, like you said, depending on how that reaction roll is, they could actually be friendly to you. And yeah, you don't have to fight every single time, depending on how well the dice roll, which is pretty cool. I like that they incorporated that.
Yeah, the reaction roll puts that in.
Yeah, it also makes you really want to police those players who are like, shoot first, ask questions later. Because, the combat might not have even been a hostile encounter. And then this person's like, no, I'm attacking them now. And it's like, okay, Anakin, relax. Let's calm down.
Yeah.
Let's just see what they want.
So,
exactly.
Can I mention one thing that I actually just discovered regarding MÖRK BORG?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you guys are interested in the game just in general, obviously do what you can to pay the publishers. Don't go through any sort of distributor that's not going to give the creators a fair cut. If you could buy the game directly from the developers themselves, do that, even if there may be a shipping delay. Only because most of that money should just be going to the people creating the game. But that's neither here nor there. What I wanted to bring up is if you are interested in the game, if you head over to mörkborg.com, MÖRKBORG.com/content, they actually do have a bare bones edition of the entire rules without any of the artwork. Now, the physical book, which Dan actually has in his hand right now, it's violently yellow and black with the contrasting and the artwork and like the demon goat people all over it and just like the ink splattering and like the black metal font is like, it's just badass enough to keep on your coffee table. Like it is a conversation piece. You pull a MÖRK BORG out of your backpack if you're meeting up with a couple of friends, like at a cafe or whatever, and people see that from a distance. If people know, they know. They'll see that yellow book and be like, "Oh shit, they're playing MÖRK BORG." Like I can tell because it's so unique.
Yeah. I definitely want to bring that up too, because like going through this book, it's almost like going through an art book, and I know we've mentioned here today that this is a very, dying world and it's miserable and it's horrifying. And as much as you can explain it, you don't really get the vibe of the game until you go through the physical book.
True.
Because the artwork in this book really solidifies how terrifying and grotesque this world is. The art, some of these pages you turn to and you almost get scared. It's like freaky. There's a monster section in the very back of the book, and there's this one monster that I never want to come across. It's called Lady Porcelain. Look at this thing. If I can show it on YouTube, I will.
God,
it's
no.
It's like a baby doll, like a porcelain doll face, but like blacked out eyes, and like I never would want to come across that in a TTRPG. That is terrifying.
Do you know what this art reminds me of? Back in the 90s when I was a kid, there was a book called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh yeah.
And it had like this really just awful, terrifying, uncanny valley, black and white, kind of wispy illustrations of like these monsters in these stories. And this definitely kind of harkens back to like that very unnerving, like this unnerving, unknown, mysterious kind of monster.
It's like someone saw it and sketched it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it looks like a very hastily sketched illustration of these monsters before that person was killed.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the group finds their blood-soaked journal, and it's like, oh, let's get the hell out of here.
So speaking of that, on that same website, the mörkborg.com/content, they have a couple of generators on there for you guys if you're interested in doing this. They have character generators, they have dungeon generators, monster generators, and a bunch of absolutely free PDF dungeon crawl adventures that they just put up there for people to play, and also some of the most badass t-shirts I think I have ever seen.
Oh yeah,
life.
they got cool ass t-shirts.
So I randomly generated a monster, and it says the monster approaches, crawling like liquid with a young child's face. It's spasmodically skittering close. More than anything, it wants to play cruel, lethal games. And it tells you its HP, its morale, it's wearing plate armor, which is terrifying. So like that could be interpreted like maybe it has like a carapace on it, you know, not necessarily like plate, you know, but like a hard shell, kind of like an armadillo or something.
Yeah.
And it gives the animal or the creature abilities. Like this one has the ability to it creates lava. The ground turns to lava in its footsteps wherever it steps.
Oh, dude.
Which is kind of dope. And it gives you a lair and whatever loot may drop from this creature when you kill it. Yeah, no, some of this stuff is like really twisted and dark and brutal. And they clearly put a lot of work into the game to just sort of make it super accessible for people to pick up and play.
Yeah.
Because you can access all this stuff on your mobile and just generate stuff on the fly and then just play.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need a bestiary monster guide or like any of that other garbage. Like everything is self-contained, and I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely want to say I would recommend picking up the book, because it not only does it give you the core rule book necessities, but it also gives you, you know, a little monster encyclopedia in the back. And in the very back, to really get yourself started, it even comes with like a little 15-page dungeon crawl just to start off.
Oh,
sick. I love that. For $40, you get all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, that's wonderful. Like,
I know the viewers can't listen to this, but Dan, can you open that page again?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it looks like it's like a matte black page with like a gold leaf upside down cross. Dude, that is the most metal thing I've ever seen.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, I love that.
It's so cool. The artwork's amazing. So I just want to wrap this up. While studying this game, I heard something from a YouTube channel that really puts it into perspective the best way possible. This game, when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, when you're going up against obstacles like traps or monsters and everything like that, it challenges your character, right? So like, let's say you have to jump over a cliff. Oh, you have to roll this skill. Or if you're fighting this creature, okay, you have to roll this for strength. This game challenges the player more than it does the character, because you really have to think about what you're doing at all times. Like I said, the GM rarely rolls things. Rarely. So you can just be walking in a dungeon, and if you don't say something like, I want to look around for something, or I want to make sure that there's no traps, or I want to listen in to see if I hear a monster, it's just going to happen, and probably 99% of the time, you will just die. So as a player, you really have to think before doing. And that's what I think is really interesting. Since you don't have a whole lot, you have 3 pieces of equipment, armor, a weapon, and a little bit of hope for this dying world. You really got to think on your toes. And that's what I really love about this game the most. And that's it. That's MÖRK BORG, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I gave a pretty good synopsis of the game.
Yeah, I want to play it, run it. I think eat the book. There's like a lot like I want to do right now.
Eat the book like it's a scroll.
Yeah, just eat this. Just like nom. Just eat it.
Eat the scroll.
Look, it for me personally, you know, from everything that you've described of the book, because I don't have the book myself. I've only seen what prior to this episode, you know, Dan showed us. And I looked at a little bit of the core rules, but again, the physical book is definitely where it's at, right? It ticks off all of the things. Like, it's got great design, just like whoever designed the book, the layout of the pages, the artwork, everything, the coloring, the feel, the consistency of that book. Because I have looked at Cyborg, which is something that MÖRK BORG has also made, and they just released the Pirate Borg, which my local game store just got today or yesterday. And like, if it's anything, if those 2 games that I've held, Cyborg and Pirate Borg, are anything like MÖRK BORG, the quality of the print of these books is something that you don't even see in like $60 mainstream AAA quote unquote tabletop role playing game.
Not at all. Not at all.
Like, just the cover doesn't bend or flex when you really kind of do that. It's very solid. The pages feel very solid. Is it stitch bound?
It is stitch bound, and even down to the like page saver ribbon.
Oh, it comes with a ribbon even.
Yeah, it's got a ribbon, and it has like the company's name on it. It says MÖRK BORG on it. Like it's like a custom ribbon, which is really, really cool too.
Oh, that's dope.
The attention to detail of the book is amazing.
Yeah, I'm a very easy person to please, and like if a core rule book, no less, can check off all of these things while also being like metal as fuck, I am 100% on board for it.
Exactly.
Like that's the type of game that you just like you blast like Kirith Ungol in the background on your hi-fi stereo system, you know.
Dim the lights,
black lights on. Yeah. Just blasting metal and playing MÖRK BORG in a dark, dingy basement.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to think. I wonder what kind of really dark crap I could come up with for it.
This game is made for you. You're the horror guy. This game is made for you.
Mike is the horror guy. Yeah, he really is.
But yeah, so that's MÖRK BORG, baby. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that gave everybody a brief synopsis into this crazy world. And thank you, everyone, for checking out the Crithalla Podcast. We all really appreciate it. Here at Crithalla, we do, like I said, we do Talking Tabletop, and we also do DM's Discuss, which will be coming out very soon, our next episode. You can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. On our YouTube page, we always post a video version of every podcast we ever do. And that's pretty much it. That is it, baby. So, Stavia, I hope you have a good one planned for the next episode of Talking Tabletop, because you're next, baby.
Yeah, I'm next. I have a couple of systems that I'm sort of like, because Mike has a very particular system. You have a very particular system. They're both very unique in their own way.
Yeah.
I kind of want something that definitely complements the other two to make the decision very difficult for our viewers to choose between one of them.
Oh yeah,
you know,
I like that.
I don't want like multiple systems to be similar. Like if you're doing MÖRK BORG, for example, which is like this heavy metal, dark fantasy death spiral. You know, I don't want to do something that's like Warhammer Fantasy or like Zweihander or something like that, where it sort of fits that same kind of like vibe of just like this hopeless world where everybody's dying. But on the same hand, I don't want to do like the Heroes tabletop RPG, which is also another superhero thing. So I have some things planned.
I just realized how hard you have it, because like on one side it's like, you know, you swoop in, stop the bank robbers, tie them up, and be like, you guys should get jobs. Haha, drink your milk. And like the other one, it's like, then your dead mother rises up and tries to tuck you in one last night and winds up eating your wife. And you're just like, what the fuck? I don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I gotta find something that bridges that gap.
Yeah.
Because that's a hell of a gap to bridge.
Well, I'm sure you'll definitely figure it out.
Yeah,
for sure.
It'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
I can't wait.
And to everybody who is listening, just like Dan said, thank you so much for all of your support. I mean, this goes from all of us. Thank you for your support with DM's Discuss and just the Crithalla podcast and all of the videos that we've been producing up on YouTube as well. The response and like the engagement that you guys have been showing for everything that we've been doing means a lot. It really does. And we're having a lot of fun doing this new channel, and I'm really excited to get our first one shot in.
Me too.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait. But all right. Well, thank you guys so much for checking out the Crithalla Podcast. My name is Ol Skipflack, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Die.
Goodbye from the darkness, skulls.
We'll see you in the next one if our calendar doesn't kill us.
Yeah, if we don't die, yeah, skulls.
Blood axe.
Yes. Death, blood. Blood. Frozen yogurt.
Oprah Winfrey.